Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Higher Density Living. We are getting into part 2 of the Raw Contact session 36 and then transitioning into session 70. And the focus is, if you listen to the previous episode, is around the higher self and having a real explicit explanation about what it is and what it actually does for you. Because if you're going through all those self-help books or listening to some sort of guru, they give you a million different definitions. There's no clarity. There's no actual process to how these things occur. Everything in this universe has a process, but no one can tell me about the other process. And so the sessions here break it down with Don Elkins asking questions to the social memory complex, upper 6 density raw group.
And this is what I love about it is you can start from the very super macro and look at our universe expanding, growing, and then it wants to learn of itself.
Yeah.
And you can go super macro there. And then in these teachings, it breaks it down to the self. And then that should be the same way as the universe, so should I.
Different.
You know,
they're
what I
bound
mean?
by the same laws.
Because in my third density, I'm viewing myself as separate, which I'm not,
No.
and we can get into oneness and stuff like that later. But
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion
of material separateness.
Yeah, I'm looking at something that's not real.
Yeah.
Me, and it's so funny. Like I was listening to a YouTube video, and they were talking about this. It's like he realized this oneness when he looked at a spider that he was fixing to kill because his wife was afraid of it, and he looked at the spider with pity because he was fixing to kill it.
Wow.
But there's a separation.
Yeah.
When you're looking at something with pity, you're distinguishing yourself from that. He still killed the spider because his wife was like, whatever, who cares about that part? But the whole idea on that story was we tend to look at somebody or something in disgust.
Yeah.
And look at it as separate or in pity, or even, I think even when we talk about this, we would think that 6th density, probably even, let's go 5th density. 5th density is probably pretty boring in our mindset, our 3rd density mindset. I doubt that they're like getting it on in any format that we would think physically. It's all like just understanding self, understanding knowledge.
It's outside of pleasure.
Pure wisdom.
It's outside of pleasure.
But we're like, oh my God, I'm going to miss out on, the beautiful parts of, or like when I taste a good piece of food, and it's just so, these are so elementary.
So elementary. That's the point of this experience. It's beyond that. You don't need the ridiculous food. The function is not to wake up and eat food. The function is to actually align with creation.
But the pleasures that we have now, and I want people to understand this, the pleasures that we have now are because we think those are things that we need to satisfy us.
Yeah.
We think that we are lacking in something. So we need to have sex with our partner to feel oneness. Where 5th density, you have complete knowledge of this. Well, not complete, but you have knowledge of the self and you have knowledge of oneness. So you're understanding that we're all one.
Correct.
So for me to be one with,
you don't have to have a physical act to understand
this partner, I don't need a physical act.
Correct.
For me to have love and unity, I don't need.
No, it's more cerebral and it's more spiritual.
Yes.
And
that's where we're headed.
And it's limited material, but that's where we're headed.
And you're not missing out on anything. It's better.
Yeah, you get to experience actually more because there's more stuff that. Let me just give you a clear metaphor on this.
I love this.
Over 98%, over 99% of our universe is empty space.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is all energy. Don't you want to experience the 99%? Wouldn't you want to?
There was an old techno song. It's like pure energy. Yeah, it's like from the 90s. Did you ever hear that song? And the guy would just come on there and he'd like pure energy.
That's all he says, and then it just keeps hitting that beat.
Yeah,
you know,
hard
180 beats per minute, hard 90 techno beat. That's right.
I watched a whole documentary on Berlin techno and how it helped the wall come down with East Germany.
No way.
Yeah, raves were like kicking. I mean, it still is. Berlin still has a hard techno scene, and some of the clubs are really hard to get into there. But it's like techno music helped. I mean, of course, there's Ronald Reagan and all that stuff going on.
Yeah,
that time frame, bringing the wall down.
Interesting. Yeah,
but it was like, tear
down that wall,
they were
Mr.
like,
Gorbachev.
oh shit, an East German communist can like techno too, and we can dance together, and we're one. Oh, shit.
They're not different.
I guarantee you play a hard, good techno beat. No matter if you're Marxist, communist, patriot, United States, it's all, you're all going to be, something's going to be moving.
Have you seen fascists?
Yeah, fascists could, they could, they're bringing it
all the time.
Hard. Yeah, they got the fucking clothes going. With the big beards. What's the shirts they wear? The Cuban dude or the
Guayaveras.
Yeah, they're just
Oh, that's funny.
I love it. Okay,
can we get back to the main topic?
Yeah. Sorry, Raw. You don't get me started on.
I know.
So Raw's speaking.
Okay.
With the question about mind, body, spirit complex, totality, and sixth density and all that. Listen to this. This is so cool. So he's not saying you're saying this because he always clarifies it. He's saying Raw is saying this.
Okay.
And I say he, but it's they, them. The mind, body, it is. They're the OG, they, them.
They're the OG woke crew.
Yeah. The
okay.
OGs. The mind, body, spirit complex, totality.
You're good. All right, good.
No, they're
calm. I'm calm.
Yeah.
I'm under control.
The mind, body, spirit complex, totality.
Yes.
This is really cool. Is as the shifting sands. Raw saying this. And in some part, a collection of parallel developments of the same entity.
Yeah. Okay.
So here we go. Here we're going to get into a little bit of physics.
Right. Okay, so we'll go with the shifting sands here. I love working with metaphors. If you go to the Middle East or to larger deserts where there are dunes, the dunes shift constantly.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Footsteps erase, right? But every single piece of those grain, right, is still essentially the desert itself, down to the single grain of silica that defines the sand. But when I back out of it, the totality of it is still the desert itself, even though it's shifting.
I love that.
There's still a personality. There's still, better than that, there's an environment that is still the same. No matter if you're on the smallest dune or you're on all the dunes, right? You're carrying the same flavor, which is shifting and moving in and of itself as one like amalgamous unit of sand, right? But imagine all those personalities that have shifted and moved over time, but they are still the greater overall personality, that higher self.
Well, I think because we're looking at it bound by time. Like, for instance, I watched Circle, CERCLE. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do music, but they do DJs and they drop them in like cool spots. They had like the huge desert. They've had a couple of them with desert scenes. We can look in that moment at that exact time, kick-ass music going, DJ there. We can see that. We back out of that within 20 minutes. His imprint, where the speakers were sitting at,
gone.
There was like he never existed.
Gone.
It happened though.
Sure, it did.
It's recorded on the universe blockchain.
Yeah. The blockchain,
it's timestamped.
The blockchain of the cosmos. Welcome back to BBC. We talk about the blockchain of the cosmos this evening. No, but I love that. But in reality, what happens is you've backed out. It is past, but where that person was, that energy has shifted to a new spot. But overall, it's still the same total substance.
Well, that's what he's saying. Is in some part a collection of parallel developments of the same entity.
Yeah, that's because that's what it is. Like you go to experience a life, you learn one lesson, but maybe you need to learn the lesson over multiple lives. They're parallel experiences because it's the same lesson.
Yes.
But in total, it's just shifting around at different points. But everything all together through these shifting stands is still the desert.
So sixth density, higher self. He says this information is made available to the higher self aspect. He's going to explain aspect.
Who the hell can come up with a metaphor that fast? That is, it is so profound, so deep, and so superb.
That's why we could go, dude. I almost called you, but you've been super busy. But because I would have blown your mind for like an hour on this, dude. I was like fireworks, like spiritual fireworks, were going off in my head. Like I haven't experienced in like a year.
I feel like we need to fill the studio with sand.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
People walk in here like, why is there a beach in here? Like, it's constantly shifting. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. Ask we're all.
Yeah.
We're just doing what he says.
I don't know. He tells me what to do, and I just do it.
My higher self said, "Put sand in here."
Yeah, I got no free will anymore.
I love it. This information is made available to the higher self aspect. Now, listen to what the aspect is. This aspect may then use these projected, get this is awesome, probability, possibility, vortices,
yeah.
in order to better aid in what you would call future, what you would call, so now he's using his own words. Now he's going to use one of our words, future life programming.
Okay, so slow down. 4-minute bottle of water. Okay. Can we break this down slowly?
Projected possibilities.
Okay, so
probabilities.
Okay.
It's a Turing. Here we go.
There are probability, possibility vortexes. What is that in the sense of what Ra's talking about? What it is that there are multiple catalysts that are coming together. As you inherently, in the material sense, have to interact with things.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things interact, they swirl like a pool of different densities of waters, right? You can see this between the Caribbean and the Atlantic Ocean down in the Bahamas, right? Or you can see it in a chemistry lab, anything of the sort. They're going to interact, right, in sort of vortex pattern, right? If you look at the inside of an egg, that's thermodynamically how it's moving the energy inside of an incubated egg. It's a function of how creation works, right, through this thermodynamic process. But in the non-material sense, you are doing these interactions. You're creating catalysts of cause and effects. So it's a vortex. And depending on the strength of how these two things come together, it creates a spin, right?
Yes.
And two things smash, right? Whatever it might be. So there's going to be a strength of this tornado of sorts. Now, the possibility, probability, projection. This is stating here is that as you are making choices in this life,
free will choices,
and these choices are interacting with other people or other things, you're creating these vortices of energy. Right. And with that spin,
if this, then that.
If this, then that. Correct. So through these things that are occurring, it naturally creates a distinction of where this is going to end. If you have energy spinning, right?
Right.
It's directional. It's centrifugal force or whatever it is, centrifugal force. And it launches something out of like a circular rotation in a straight line. So this vortice is happening through this interaction, but it's going to launch you somewhere in the future, some sort of distance, because of the choice that's occurring right now. So there's a possibility and a probability that this vector from your choices, this direction, this angle, this point in time is what it's going to be because of the choices of multiple things that you've done all at once. The storm. Where's the storm going to throw you out? If you're sailing through in a ship, right, through this massive vortice, this huge hurricane.
Bermuda Triangle.
Right, the Bermuda Triangle, where are you going to end up? In another dimension? Possibly, right? Or it's going to throw you off course or keep you on course. But there's a probability, possibility. Right? A probability stating that, of course, everything's possible. So they state that naturally. But the probability is the quantitative aspect of the qualitative, saying that, well, the more vortices you have and the strength of this thing occurring and more of these circumstances happening together, 80% probability that it occurs. Is it possible? Sure, given enough time. And that's the state of what is occurring here. So they're actually explaining the math, the physics, and the nuances of you coming together and how that would making a choice right now in your life is directly affecting your future.
Yeah, and collective choices. Let's use. I think this is a great
collective
example.
Vortice. This is great.
Yeah, I think this is a good example. So let's say we have GPT-3 now. Let's say in the AI scenario we have GPT-15 and it's chatbots, and society gets together and says, "Okay, GPT-15 chatbots. We believe whether it is or it isn't. Collectively, we believe it's sentient."
And will be the new president of the United States.
Yeah, and it'll change, whether we have our, I don't want to get too political, but I would imagine eventually AI will be running things.
Yeah.
At some point, a collective of AIs or something. So we have this GPT-15 going. We've agreed collectively that it's sentient. We make rules, regulations, laws around that. Collectively, we gave it something that it may or may not be, looking back, truth, but collectively we made the decision to go in that direction. You see what I'm saying? So the higher density is, not higher density, that's us, but the higher self.
Yes.
The higher self is going to look at that probability in and of your free will and the choice that was made collectively.
Correct.
And shoot off a bunch of probabilities. And this is gamification, all of its way.
GTP3, say you had GTP1.
Yeah.
A group of people came together to make a conscious choice to design an AI system, a machine learning system. Okay. The very first edition of it. There's your first possibility, probability vortex of a group of people coming together, interacting and creating energy around something to have a cause and effect, a linear cause and effect into the future. Where's it going to head? Well, they already have number 4.
Right.
They're creating a natural progression of choice in development of said thing. So I could tell you that the possibility probability is probably almost 100% that it gets up to 15. Unless all these people just happen to disappear off the face of the planet because we nuke ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the structure of it. It's either you can be working as a collective to make this choice and define what the future is going to look like from the choice right now, or you could be an individual that comes up and makes a choice that's interacting or has an effect on many people without even knowing it. All of these things are occurring, but they're strictly defining what happens in the future. And it's not to say that your future is predetermined. Your future becomes predetermined, I guess, in the sense, by the choice you make at this moment. Predetermined within a specific range of possibility and probability.
Yeah, simultaneously.
Yeah. So the future is already occurring as I'm making my choice right now.
Yes. And the higher density self is guiding that because, as Ross says, it knows it already.
Because it doesn't sit within space.
Yeah.
It sits outside of it. So 100%. As I'm making active choices here, it's going to give you the best, most evolutive things that are most beneficial to these choices that are affecting the future directly.
Yeah. And he talks about Seth material, and I don't want to get into that. That's a whole different thing. But he goes into this, and I think this is really important. And it's mainly Raw's statement, but I'll do the question here real quick. Do I understand that from this that the higher self or oversoul may break down into numerous units if the experience is required to what we would call simultaneously experience different types of catalysts and then oversee these experiences? So Raw explains this. I am Raw. This is a statement we cannot say to be correct or incorrect due to the confusions of what you call time. And so this is going to be exactly what you were talking about in the desert.
Yeah.
True simultaneity is available only when all things are seen to be occurring at once. This is sixth density. This is the viewpoint, the macro viewpoint of sixth density.
You're not living in space-time. So I'm not talking about second by second by second by second. Life is circular.
Right.
Completely circular. It's not in this linear format. So when I look at it, if I go to make a choice, I can see every single possible outcome all in one moment off of one choice.
Yes. And this is what he says. He goes over and over again. He says, this concept that you have is not accurate. You're not able to see it. He says, so Raw's going to state the truth here. The cases from universe to universe and parallel existences can then be programmed by the higher self, given the information available from the mind-body-spirit complex, totality, regarding the probability, possibility, vortices at any crux.
Okay, hold on. A crux is a cross point.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's universe dependent?
The cases from universe to universe and parallel existences can then be programmed by the higher self.
Oh, comprende. Okay.
So yeah, the case is from universe to universe. So you have to understand that what's happening in, there may be fourth density beings in another universe that are experiencing different catalysts.
Or you and I had an episode once on what happens if I meet myself.
Yes, yeah. Clone, your clone self. Yeah.
It's you and not you.
Yeah.
But it's occurring.
Yes.
But it's a distinctly unique personality of your overall spirit consciousness block, but it's residing in a different timeline.
Yes.
But the choices you're actively making now, if you were to cross paths with this other self,
right?
You got to remember, it's not you, but it'd be very difficult for the mind to reconcile this crux, this vertice.
Yes.
Right? That's happening because this thing is also making choices dimensionally in another place, but it's directly affecting the overall consciousness block, the higher self, guiding those decisions.
Well, like for instance, fourth density beings, love, martyr myself. That's what they do. Fifth density is like, well, that's kind of stupid. You had to learn. That's a catalyst where you learn. But that's what fourth density is about. It's like, I just have so much selfless love. Jesus example.
Correct. Yeah.
I have so much selfless love, and I want to help so many people and so much service to others. The greatest way I can give love is to give of myself.
Right. To use myself as an example.
Yeah, as an example. And we can see that fourth density example of love is Jesus. And that's that feminine nature. The mother, that's that feminine fourth density.
Right.
To give a mother is a perfect example. You have something that's ultimately selfish, a baby.
Yeah.
It's going to cry if it doesn't get exactly what it wants.
It's going to take from
and a mother, it's just 100% selfless love.
And for the idea of this person, as you call Jesus Christ,
yes.
right, as Ra would say, the individual is creating an idea, a thought,
Right.
a perspective of creation, and it's incubating it. And through this action, it allows people to take that and now use this thought, which it is incubating.
But that martyrdom, fifth density or sixth density may look dumb, and that's just Jason's words, but it's using it as a catalyst. What appeared to look wrong or dumb or whatever, the true intent at that time, that fourth density being, was to show love and light. So it's using that as a learning catalyst to move it to the next density. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't just look at this as like mistake, reincarnation, and then I learn. You're learning in the process of your density.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? Like you got to have the feminine fourth density to get to the masculine fifth density.
The way
These are my
evolution,
interpretations.
no, this is correct, because let me explain to you why you have this correct. Evolution does not skip steps.
Yeah, 100%. There we go. Yes.
I don't just have, let's talk about a cellular level. I got mitosis in my body. I'm creating new cells. Things are splitting and dividing and stuff. It's not just like, oh, I have just this like little protoplasma. Oh, it's a heart.
Yes.
Doesn't happen like that. There's a process, a step to the evolution and development of the organ itself. Okay? And it happens with very, very base chemical energy, right? ATP feeding the cell, culmination of cells. These things split, divide, grow, turn into the organ, which is itself. Has no genetic code. There was no like jump in the steps here. You have to go through these processes. If you don't take the steps in the process, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not laying a proper foundation. Now you're going to there's going to be like a wonky part of the house you're always going to trip on, right? The floorboards are not set right because I skipped a level, right? Or there's not enough support. So the floor is actually bowing because I'm 2 tiers up. I jumped 2 tiers. Skip the other ones. It doesn't work like that. Creation doesn't work like that. Do trees just be skinny and just explode wide? No, they don't do that. They grow rings. There's a progression. There's a step function that is actually occurring through this process.
Yeah, soil and the feeding of the soil, and then looking at the layers of the soil.
It's not step function. I shouldn't have said that. It's a stepless function. These transition without a clear definitive line from one stage to the next, but you can't skip. Okay. And it's fundamentally important because that's a function of evolution.
Well, obviously the questionnaire is getting stumbled with what Raw just said. And this is going to get clarity.
I'm trying to digest this and he's doing it on the fly. I got to give him some credit.
Questionnaire says, could you give an example of an entity, possibly one from our historical past, possibly any entity that you might choose if you don't wish to name one, and give an example of how this type of programming by the higher self would then bring about the education through parallel experiences, please.
Okay, go ahead.
So I am Raw. Perhaps the simplest example of this apparent simultaneity of existence of two selves, which are in truth one self at the same time space, is this. This is good.
This is so juicy. I don't want to read anything else.
He says the oversoul, as you call it, our higher self, seems to exist simultaneously with the mind-body-spirit complex with its aids. This is not actually simultaneous, for the higher self is moving to the mind-body-spirit complex as needed from a position in development of the entity, which would be considered in the future of this entity. So I want to stop right there. What people are not understanding, and it took me a while to understand this, is I'm evolving.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's steps to the evolving.
Yes.
It's not all of a sudden Jason's sixth density.
No.
It's me evolving over millions of years. Mm-hmm. Once I was a rock, then I was a wolf, and then I was, whatever. A tyrant, however that goes. I could see myself.
I can see that.
Being that,
mm-hmm.
and then moving on and slowly evolving to the point of the learning phase in those densities being different. That evolution doesn't happen all at once. The redwood tree is 2,000 years old. Yeah, we put time to that.
Mm-hmm.
But those rings develop a form of character that shows, we call it time, but to us, like how we would look at it, just shows
change
in evolution. It shows a process.
That's all it's showing is a process.
We attach time to them.
Time is,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Time's a function of movement.
Yes.
Right. And so how is it that we grasp our world? Well, I'm 3 years old. Okay. You've been here through these stages of solar cycles, right? And the spinning of the planet that tells you you're of this age.
Yes.
Does it really matter? No. Your life is an absolute fucking blip.
Yes.
It is a lightning flash.
It should feel so good.
You should feel relieved at the fact that life is so quick.
It's like when I go on Call of Duty.
Great game.
Yeah, and I rarely play it, but when I do, and everybody is so good now.
Yeah.
My blip is like I fall out, I hit the ground, and then within a few seconds I'm shot. I mean, I can't even like run very far.
No, you can't do anything.
In the scheme of millions of evolving meat suits and animal suits and plant suits.
Yeah.
What is this one?
It's no big deal.
It's the granular
it's the grain of sand.
Yeah.
Shifting.
So stop being so serious about everything, people.
Right. Just take everything as a learning experience.
That's all it is.
And understand that your function of time, which you reside in, recognize it. And when you look back when you're 80 or 100 years old, you're like, that was quick. Hell yeah, it was. Guess what? You're on the way out. You're ready to start a new one.
It's just narcissism.
That's all it is.
I mean, it's just you focused on you.
Uncontrolled ego.
So get this. The questionnaire says this. This is really funny. And Raw's like snaps him a Z. I love this when Raw does that. Then the higher self, the questionnaire is saying, then the higher self operates from the future as we understand things. In other words, my higher self would operate from what I consider to be my future. Is this correct? Because I was thinking that at first too, like, oh, the future higher self, sixth density is guiding me and helping me, and I can tap into that. But I'm viewing it as being millions of years ahead of time.
No, that's not how that works.
And so Ross says, I am Raw. From the standpoint of your space-time, this is correct.
Right.
So if you want to look at it that way.
We perceive it as a one-to-one thing. It's showing me my future. But in reality, this thing does not live in the future. It lives in the all now.
Yes.
It's a retuning, a reframing of your brain to really understand what's going on here, because you've lived your entire life very physical, very linear.
Well, dude, we have watches on.
No, I actually,
like when I click on my phone, it's 9:34.
No, I know.
In the morning.
And then
I base everything off of that. We have calendars and Gmails and Zoom calls.
It just goes forward all off the
Google
time.
Meets and everything.
And so when we look at it, it's like, yeah, in that limited perspective,
yes,
it is the future.
Yes.
But in reality, there is no future. Everything is all the now.
That is so good.
It's really hard to reconcile, but you have to think about it for a while.
So I want to end in this. The questionnaire says this. In that case, my higher self would, shall we say, have a very large advantage in knowing precisely what was needed, since it would know what, as far as I'm concerned, what was going to happen. Is this correct? Yeah, Raw. I am Raw. This is incorrect. In that this would be an aberration of free will.
Yeah, see?
The higher self aspect is aware of the lessons learned through the sixth density.
Did I not say this?
Yes,
the overall conscious block stores the information from all of these personalities that happened before, and will only feed it to the subconscious so that it doesn't directly affect your decision making and your free will. It just affords you with essentially this light memory, and you'll make the action occur without it actually stepping on your toe.
Yeah, and Raw gives a really good explanation of this, and it actually kind of drops down to my level, Jason's level, where I understand this. So
like Jason's level.
Yeah, Jason's level, pretty primitive.
Yeah, basement floor.
Yes, thus the higher self is like the map in which the destination is known. The roads are very well known. These roads being designed by intelligent infinity, working through intelligent energy.
Yes.
However, the higher self aspect can program only for the lessons and certain predisposing limitations if it wishes.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, I'm going to program all this right now. No. It understands there's a course of events that have to occur. It knows the end destination is to be one back with creation itself.
Yes.
But we can't rush it. I know the map. I've seen it.
I've traveled down it millions and millions of times.
Millions of times.
But Jason, you want to go down this road? Yeah, you're going on PCH Highway. It's going to take you a lot longer. You could have just took I-5.
Yeah, I-5. Yeah, exactly. Or if you want the scenic route, take Route 1.
Yeah. So, and I'll watch you, and maybe my mind is like, my higher self is like, oh, okay, you're going down that road.
Or you're like driving.
We've gone down this road
like
like
sick to my stomach. It's like, yeah. You're like, I feel like I've been here before.
So he says, and we'll close on this. He says the remainder is completely the free choice of each entity. There is the perfect balance between the known and the unknown. So my veil, third density Jason, is the unknown.
Yeah.
And I'm viewing this road like I've never walking down the only road I've ever known.
White Snake. Oh gosh, so
this is raw and White Snake.
It's perfect.
Right there. Yeah. And so that's the unknown. The known is sixth density. So we have this unity of the known and the unknown.
But how does it work? Your subconscious has to call upon the overall consciousness block only when it is ready. It will call upon the known information. So in a state of unknown, there's a triggering that occurs because you have made a catalyst, a choice in your physical life to move yourself to a point where it's saying, oh, wait, there's a new path to take on this map.
Yeah.
But it's not going to show you the path until you're absolutely ready to take it.
I love that. We'll end on that. That's perfect.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and joining us here on Higher Density Living. And that's about it. We'll see you next week.